Hello! I'm Elaine, and I'm a tour guide in the French Quarter. I do ghost tours. And I am not going to tell you the stories that I tell on my tour, because you gotta pay for those. But if you want to hear some interesting things that have happened to me while I'm leading random drunk people around the French Quarter, I got you.
Most of these stories amount to guests that are not interested enough in the tour to be on the tour. A lot of these stories basically amount to, like, why did you bother coming on this tour? But every now and then you get that guest that it's the exact opposite problem. Like, they are way too into the tour. I had a tour the other day that was a very small group, and it was a family friendly tour, so we were mostly paying attention to the small child on the tour, and also they had directly told me that they were here for the child. Both of the adults actually lived in New Orleans. One still lived in New Orleans, and the kid was just visiting. He was family, and he wanted to go on a ghost tour. Now, I will admit, I could tell from the beginning the kid was going to be bored out of his mind because he was clearly not listening to us when we were just chatting in the store. And I'm like, I don't know if he realizes that a ghost tour is mostly listening to stories. He may not be entertained by this. But we start, and sure enough, the kid is dancing around, barely paying attention, and I keep addressing things directly to him to try to get him involved and get him, interested, and he is clearly just not interested in chatting with me, and I'm like, okay, this is fine. So I end up pretty soon more directing the tour to the adults, and yeah, the adults really seem to be enjoying themselves, except for the fact that they both were from here. They both knew a lot of these stories, or knew little bits of them, and one of them in particular just kept adding bits to the story, which was cute and wonderful, and I loved the fact that she was engaged and wanted to be here. The problem is, 90% of the time, she would add little bits that were literally the punchline to a joke I was setting up, and I'm like, ma'am, I'm gonna kill you. But it was a nice kind of trouble, and also because they were the only people on the tour, it's not like she was annoying anyone. It was fine. But they were fun. My other favorite kind of two engaged guests are the ones who, when the tour is done, they come up and thank you and they chat for a minute, and then they ask you for not just one, not just two, not just three, like 4 or 5 more stories. And like 1 or 2 stories, I am 100% there for it. I will tell you little bits. And if you're asking for just like random little details, yes, I will tell you. But eventually, I do have to draw a line and go home. And it's not just a matter of I'm an introvert and I'm out of energy and out of the desire to talk to people, or the fact that my cats are usually waiting to be fed because I used to feed them before work with their wet food, and I tend to forget now, so they get it when I get home, and they do not like this change. But also just, there is a legal limit. We're not supposed to be out on the street after 10. And like when it's 1 or 2 guests, I could just take off my badge and we can pretend I'm not a tour guide and I'm just hanging out with my friends. But when it's a group of like 5 or 6 and like, I'm obviously telling them stories, there's always just this little panicky voice in the back of my head saying, the taxi cab bureau are going to catch you. You're going to get in trouble for being too into your job. Though the best of the best, the best of this version is when you stand around telling them like 5 or 6 extra stories, and then they neither tip you nor offer a review. And I'm like, friend, I gave you a lot of extra stuff. All I ask in exchange is a 5-star review. Please. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and be sure to check out my book, Drunks of the French Quarter Theater, available on Amazon, bookshop.org, Barnes & Noble, pretty much wherever.